Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another of my amazing interviews. Now, you know I've been talking about all sorts of stuff, and when I started on this journey, I said to myself, I'm going to explore everything, entertain everything, everything's on the table, I'm not going to dismiss anything. And in the journey, of course, you go along down the rabbit holes, and there's a number of things that people tell you and you think, is that really true? And one of those has been about the fact that we're spiritual people, and that the where we are is this is the sort of, I keep hearing about the 3D world, and we're going to raise our consciousness and all of that. So I thought it was about time I talked to somebody who was telepathic, psychic, what might you say. In fact, I've got a lovely lady here to bring to you who reads, now I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, so forgive me, the Akashic Record. She's an Akashic Record reader. Her name is Leah Ray, and she joins me today. Leah, it's so lovely to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you so much for having me. Blessings to you and everyone here listening. Thank you.
Now, I should reveal that we've spoken before, and in fact, you've done a reading for me about a month ago now, I suppose it must have been. And it was quite a busy time. But it was a fascinating insight because I don't think I've had. I mean, I've been to places where, you know, they've sort of looked at the cards and it's all a bit amateurish, but the reading that we did was much more insightful. So I'm very grateful to that. And whilst obviously that was private between you and I, I'd like to explore what the spiritual realm is, what the I can't pronounce it, the Akashic records are, and how you access them, and then, if I may, how is it that ordinary people can also sort of start that journey. But first, before we get to all of that, let's find out something about yourself. When did you know you were psychic?
Oh gosh. Well, that's a great question. Um, when I was younger, I had a lot of dreams that would come true from a really young age of 3, 4, 5. And I could see spirit. So around 4 or 5, I saw my great grandfather right when he passed. And my mom dreamt this that he was visiting her to say goodbye. And I actually saw him because he came to my room first, and then he went down the hall to visit her. And so it was something. Thankfully, I was able to share with her, and she remembered that she dreamt this dream. He was saying goodbye because he'd passed the night before. So thankfully, I was always heard a little bit in my family, not always of like I had many questions and they didn't really know what to do with me, but I was able to see colors around people. I had a really hard time in like grade school because I would only remember people's color and number. I would associate everyone with a color or a number. I learned later it's called synesthesiology or something like that, where I could a smell had a color to it, a smell had a number to it. It was music had numbers and shapes and color, and so it was, I didn't know what this was, but I knew people by their like I remember Erin, I went to kindergarten with her. She was a number 4 and red. And so, and then her name had a certain color. And so in each letter had a certain color. But anyway, so I was definitely an odd duck. I was very sensitive, so I could feel people's pain and suffering.
Wow. Was anybody else in your family psychic or had similar abilities?
Well, I later found out, like my grandmother, I would ask my grandmother in my brain to call me. And like 5 seconds later, the phone would ring and I would run and grab it and I'd say, "Hi, Nana." And so I did that since I was very young, probably around
Right.
6 or 7 years old. So I believe she had unfortunately a rough go with her husband. So um, my grandfather, but so she was more kind of isolated and depressed. But I do know I could feel her and I could sense her in such a different way. And I felt she could with me. I think my mom has abilities, but she never was able to embrace them due to her upbringing.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and my dad had a lot of experiences growing up. He grew up in Western Massachusetts in the woods, like where they had, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of acres. Like he was in a house, but they had tree houses and stuff. And so he had a lot of interesting experiences while in the woods, he and his sister. So I also had spent a year or two in that house growing up. And so I also had experiences, very different and probably a lot people just, it's hard to understand for people that don't
No.
necessarily believe in stuff.
So
That
do you think, I mean, if you've been brought up in nature in
Mhm.
that way, in the wilderness and nature, unlike the majority of people these days are either in towns or cities in which there's a lot of man-made stuff, houses, roads, street lights, and these days, of course, we've got Wi-Fi and all of that. Do you think that helps open up your psychic ability if you're there growing up with nature, and maybe those people who don't find it harder because they've, I don't know, I'm just wondering if man-made stuff sort of closes down the possible opening.
I believe that's correct because even for me now, I have to do nature walks or nature healings every day just for me to connect and clear my energies. I used to hear noise, I could hear wiring in the house. I'm like,
Oh
uh,
my goodness, you could hear the wiring in the house.
to the point I could hear the like, and then it would be, and then it would change. So like I couldn't watch TV for 7 years because I couldn't have extra stimulation around me.
Right.
I couldn't go to the grocery store without feeling people's pain and suffering. So I would end up going to the grocery store 10 minutes before it closed so that I wouldn't have to hit crowds
Yes.
until I
Gosh.
learned how to get my aura stronger. But nature always can clear and heal in such a beautiful way. I
Yes.
also had parents that believed water was very important. So they always gave me very pure water. I grew up on distilled water, which I found was not good because they say it's dead water. But if you add minerals, and I now drink alkaline water, but it was very pure. So thankfully, I don't think the contaminants really. I've seen people's pineal glands calcified due to the water.
Really.
Because here in the States, I don't know how it is over there, but we have unfortunately fluoride and chlorine and all these contaminants. I mean, pharmaceuticals are in the water because they can't be filtrated. So antidepressants, their birth control pills are all in the water. So that can cloud someone's pineal gland completely.
So tell me about the pineal gland. How important is that, and what's its function?
Well, the way it was shown to me, because I would meditate a lot, is it literally would almost show me when I would activate my pineal gland, it would be, I guess, a gate. The way it showed me, it was gateway to the stars, but it was gateway to the galaxies, and it was just a pure opening to a direct galactic energy. And so almost, it's very strange because I can draw it out, but when I do people's Akashic records, sometimes we have to clear or open up chakras. And so with the pineal gland, you have the front entrance and the back. So a lot of times they activate, like I'll move my hands around someone's pineal glands to help activate and open. Um, but people can do this with like Kundalini breath work, if they go outside, if they sit with nature. I always ask my chakras to open and reset themselves. So that I mean, our mind is so amazing if we activate certain things. It's just getting in touch with this. I believe
Mm.
everyone has these amazing abilities. It's just learning how to reach and kind of clear away all the stuff that we were told and kind of get to a place of meditation, clearing the mind, opening the chakras, cleaning your system. I found stuff like chlorophyll and spirulina, high activated foods, and can get these, it can clear a lot of the heavy metals out of us, which most of us have.
Yes.
that can help us activate and get a clear connection. At least that's what's worked for me. So I'm going to speak from my viewpoint.
Oh gosh, yes, no, absolutely. I think that's, I mean, that's vital, and my partner and I, we're very much now trying to stay on organic foods, foods that've got minerals and nutrients and things in that are clean as possible, which is hard. Certainly in the UK, I don't know what it's like in America, but it's very hard because we're all influenced and everything's so easy to go and eat high processed foods, which also have loads of chemicals in, which presumably is not giving us the kind of food stuff that we want, both for mind and body.
Oh, yeah. And that's fascinating because I don't remember most people's Akashic record sessions, but I do know that a lot of their guides will tell them to eat or drink certain herbs or foods, and it's because of the activation in the food, and it's the um, like what I'm seeing now is a lot of sacred geometry, especially around food. Nature can show it, so people are able to gather this sacred geometry in their own aura and in their own bodies because they're ingesting that beautiful energy into them. They're honoring it. They're welcoming in this energy. But like that beautiful. I don't know if he's passed. He probably has. But the man that decided to pray over water, and he said, "This is what love looks like," and he would take the dirtiest water. I think in Japan. Is this? Do you?
Oh yes, the guy, and he published the photographs of the water and the shape that came from it.
Before and after. So we can do that with our food. If you're not able to access the highest organic nutritious food, you can truly bless it and thank it and ask it to activate itself into the highest frequencies so then you can ingest it. We have the power to manipulate energy around us with thought and with love and with our heart center. So it's really intentions. It's really like I have the intention to send you love from all the way here in the United States. And if I send it to you, you may or may not feel it, but it's being sent so you can receive it.
Right,
But it's and it what I find if people don't want to receive it, it ends up kind of going to where it's needed in the highest
right.
frequency. So that's why too people are always asking, can I was told I'm not allowed to send energy unless the person allows it. Their higher self will say yes or no, but if it doesn't, if they that person doesn't want it, it will go where it's needed. So it may go to the dog, it may go to the neighbor, it may go to the flower or the tree down the street. So it's all beautiful if you have good intentions.
Yes. So, I mean, in other words, the if everybody was doing that, what a wonderful world we would have.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but we're far, far from that, sadly.
I know. I think though, maybe I'm wrong, but I really feel that I see it as a dark cloud, or let's just say I see it as a light, shining on all the darkness that's been around us for thousands and thousands of years. It's just finally putting the light to say, hey, we need to clean this up over here. It's not looking so great in this corner. Um,
Right.
by doing that, it's almost like we get to send it away and just say thank you, but no thank you. And I really feel like it's like a dark cloud that we're like, hey, no, we want the sun, we want this. But if we send, I mean, I always try to just send love because love is the highest frequency. Some of these energies I find don't want love, they don't want to receive love, they don't understand love. And but that's okay. I just keep wrapping them with love and ask them to exit elsewhere and go. I ask them to recycle into light. But that's me. But imagine if we all had an intention of sending love periodically throughout the day. I mean, they've done studies where people, I think with the World Trade Centers, the energy of the world shifted because of the thoughts and the hearts
Yes.
of people. So imagine if we did like sent love to the earth every time at noon, wherever you are on the planet. That would be every hour, everyone would be sending love.
Wow. Yeah, that would be amazing. So when you say intention, I mean, I because of such a broad audience coming along. There will be, of course, people watching who are fascinated, but perhaps a little skeptical about all of this because we live in such a tangible world in which we hold things and we see things as solid objects. But the world that you're talking about is part of the world, or probably envelops all of that and more. So forgive me if I ask questions, which is trying to sort of help the skeptics come along with us, if you see what I mean. And you must encounter skeptics, as you said, at school and places like that, where people think, "Hang on a minute, you're barking mad, aren't you?"
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I just send them, I just say, and this is fine because I think we're all on a different spiritual evolution. So
Right.
where you are, it was where you are, and that's okay. For me, I'm just, yeah. So you ask away because I know
Yeah.
you have questions.
Okay. So tell me about the intentions then. How is it literally that you're thinking, I'm just thinking love, I'm sending somebody love, or I'm sending love into, a flower that's wilted, and just saying, you're such a wonderful flower, I wish you well, that sort of thing. And is that the power of the thought, is somehow the vibrations, I guess, are, well, you tell me. I shouldn't be speculating.
Well, exactly. It's exactly that. So it's basically, um, like I like to imagine, I see colors, so I like to imagine a color, and then I like to just send that color with the, for me, I like to try to heal as much as I can or allow an energy to be in its highest frequency. So usually that means to clear off any of the lower frequencies that are not serving that. So let's just take a plant. Let's
Hmm.
just say, oh, the plant needs some sun. And so of course you're just sending it love. I send you love. I pray that you can activate your healing frequencies and allow yourself to grow into the best plant you can be. Of course, you also need to add sunlight and water, and you can't just let this thing starve.
No, no.
It does show, I mean, studies have shown prayer, sending love to energies, even your animal. I mean, the animals, most of them are just pure unconditional love. You feel that, that.
Mm,
Animals know
mm.
when someone's sick, they just come and they cuddle and they give you love. But so it's that energy of, I just want to say, I send you love today and I hope you're well. That goes a long way. Like what I like to do, because I feel energy of rooms and stuff. So when I go to the grocery store, I walk in and I say, I send everyone here love. Because that means I get to walk around and not feel the darkness
Right.
because I've seen and felt all of spectrums. And I just prefer the love because it's lighter. And
Yeah.
it's hard to be around energies that are really low or just want to kind of poke you and they're not so friendly. And they're here for their reasons. I just don't want to feel them. So what I do
Mm.
is I have to, it's like protecting, I put a bubble of protection around, but it's truly like you can send a loved one um, who's halfway across the world love, and they'll feel it. They'll know. It's kind of like those that have had, for those that say, "Oh, I thought of you yesterday," and then you just called, or you popped in my head, and an hour later you bump into them or something. Those are the beautiful energies that we are all have inside of us. It's just whether or not you're aware of it.
Yes. And I suppose if you're young, I mean, if you're young, you see children who have very often invisible friends, or you think. So, and is it really an invisible friend, or is it just the imagination, or it may be a bit of both?
Well, I think it could be both. I do know that people, unfortunately, that many people are put into mental institutes when all they really need is sometimes to be cleared of certain energies or healed with past life trauma. And so that's why, too, I also do quantum healing hypnosis, which is a technique by Dolores Cannon. She's passed, but it's a beautiful energy of healing past life energy that we bring in or that we haven't resolved, or let's say someone had been in multiple wars in previous lifetimes and in this life they're just in post-traumatic stress all the time, and someone would say, well, they're schizophrenic or they're bipolar or something. If sometimes you just actually sit with them and help them heal and honor the past life but let it go so that this person can be sitting in their true authentic self in this life, then they get to feel whole. Then they get to actually know, oh, this is me. I'm not living in other lifetimes where I was always at war. And that's the sad part about, unfortunately, like the mental health industry. They don't always take in consideration of the other energies, like, or an
Mm.
empath. An empath may, now an empath is actually being written about and talked about. I didn't even know what this word was. I didn't know who I was my whole life. I just found out maybe 5, 6 years ago I was an empath. I didn't know there was a term. I just thought I'm extra sensitive and I don't know how to live in this world. And now, thankfully, I'm learning. But poor empaths are put on drugs or put on antidepressants when that just hurts them even more, or makes them
Yes.
more open to, more susceptible to energy.
Oh, that's really interesting because Julia, who you met before we started recording, she often says to me that she is an empath. She feels other people's woes and troubles as well as their joy. And so it's very difficult for her to watch a film, for example, because she's feeling all the energies and all the emotions sort of triple than perhaps most people do.
Oh yeah.
And so she's very emotional at times. Even just relating something, she'll often tear up, which is difficult sometimes to think. Well, it's you're just telling me the story about the neighbour, and so she feels all these things. So that's fascinating to hear what you've just said. Should we?
I
Yeah,
just
no,
want
go on.
to honor, I want to honor you because you are able to help her and hear her. Because a lot of empaths don't know how to share this with others because it's very gut-wrenching. Like, I would take on someone's pain of losing a child, and I would take that home with me and not know that, oh my
Mm,
God, why am I crying for 3 days? Oh, because I took that client's pain home so that he wouldn't suffer. But at the same time, it's not good for the empath if you don't clear it off of you. It's great to honor it for a few seconds, but there's a difference between holding on to it and having it hurt you.
mm.
Beautiful. I just want to acknowledge you to actually allow a sacred space for her to share that with you, because it's very difficult for an empath to feel safe sharing stuff. So I just need you to know that it's a beautiful thing you can do that, and a gift that you can give her.
So how? I mean, if and presumably there'll be other empaths watching, who may say, "Well, how do I clear, as you said, how do you sort of take away those emotions so you're not crying for 3 days?"
Yeah. Well, I had to learn the hard way. So, um, I lived in Miami for a while, for many years, like Miami Beach for 20 something years. And so had access to the ocean, and that for me was my healing medicine. So I would go out on my paddleboard, jump in the water, and then go back to my apartment and start a session. And on a if I didn't, so that would be how I would clear. I would ask the ocean or the water to take away any of the energy that's not serving my highest good, take away any of the energy that's not mine that I may have picked up from others, and I send it off for you to recycle and wash away. That was a beautiful technique for me because it was immediate. So, especially with hard clients that I couldn't clear, I can visualize and ask the energy to go out into the sea or into the water. And if it's a difficult client, then I would have to submerge myself. If you don't have access to that, Epsom salt showers or baths are amazing. If you don't have access to that, literally going out and laying on the ground and asking the ground, the earth, to clear and take away any of the pain or the suffering that you might have collected. However you want to word it. I like to just say anything that's not for my highest good, clear now, go into the earth to be recycled. You can send it to the sun, you can send it to just light. Some people just send it out their window. Trees are magnificent helpers here. I had to learn that it's okay to ask a tree to take away suffering or pain. So
Oh, so that's really interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's really interesting because Julia is a tree hugger.
oh,
So she see a tree, and without a moment, she will be there and hugging that tree.
oh,
And she does say it is her sanctuary.
oh, and from what I've seen is trees. I mean, people. whatever you believe in, what I've seen is we reincarnate into many things. We're part of the trees families, we're part of animals, we're part of humans. Not all families reincarnate together, although they do like to, souls like to reincarnate together to learn their lessons. But not all do, so you can interweave different religions and whatever. So that's a whole other topic. But
Oh, right.
the tree family is really healing. And I always ask permission. I just say, may I please connect my heart to your heart? I ask this to the tree. And then I always hear yes. And so if no one's around, I'll just hug it. But if, like the other day, I was in public, so I just put my back to the tree and I just kind of rubbed it. And I was like, thank you so much. And I asked it to clear my pain that I was experiencing. So, but you can also ask, I always remember too, this is, I found important for those of you out there that know how to clear, or this is new for you. If you asked for something to leave, let's say I asked anything that's not serving my highest good to leave, then you invite to replace that energy where that once held, the energy that wasn't serving you. Fill in that space with, I just always ask for a divine sacred healing or divine sacred love, however you'd like. You can ask for divine happiness or pure bliss, whatever you want. I mean, this is your life, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully you choose high frequency because it makes life easier, but this
Yeah.
is,
Why? Well, why would you choose if you've got the choice? Low frequencies.
well, some people I've noticed, some of them are addicted to that.
Yes.
They found a friend in something, and I'm not here to judge. It's just a tougher go from what I've.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move on to the Akashic record and find out what that is. Because when we had our session, and you say you're an Akashic record reader, I think you said to me that you were reading that and you were looking in my life and the people around me, guides, people who had passed, and that sort of thing. And so I'd love to know a little bit more. Because it was a reading, I was sort of just basically listening to you and wasn't really asking too many questions. But now I've got the chance to sort of finally pin down what some of these things are and these terms. So could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So the way it was shown to me is basically all of our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings and our experiences in our life, they're recorded. And so some people, talk about karma and how if you want to try to clear karma or create good karma and all that, you know, it's maybe not a great thing to be thinking only nasty thoughts your whole life, or, so because it's all recorded. So I see it too as an option. And I ask people's guides and loved ones, and I ask permission of the lords of the Akashic records to access the person's records. And so, because I'm a visual person, I get visuals of what's being shown to me, but it's coming from this Akashic record. So it's coming from the guides and loved ones and the lords of the Akashic records. It's coming from this particular person's information that's stored. So when I ask for access, their guides always show me what's needed to be seen first. And so I have no kind of, we can guide the session however the person wants, but I really like first to share what's being shown to me so that the guides are pretty much the ones saying, this is what we need to work on first, then we can move on. So sometimes it's deep inner trauma and sometimes it's light and beautiful. So it's always depending on what that person needs. But everyone has a complete different session because everyone has different records, and
Yes.
some people say it's a library. That's a great symbol. I've seen too when I would open people's records, I would sometimes see the old school library index cards that they would have in like this big gigantic drawer, and they have all the index cards, and then they would take out one and say, this is what we need to address. Everyone's completely different. People,
Mm.
loved ones on the other side sometimes show up. I didn't even know when I started to read for people that that was even an option. Because I was just more curious of like how to I wanted to become enlightened in this life. And I was like, how do I heal myself and clear my karma? And so I was like trying everything and anything. And it just happened the Akashic Records, which when I was a young teenager, I read about Edgar Casey, and I was like, well, if Edgar Casey can heal, tapping into people's Akashic Records with just over the counter natural stuff, he can help people heal. Um, then I can do that. So it was kind of like I had no clue what I was going into, but I was grateful I didn't have a clue because the visuals would just start showing themselves.
Right. So sometimes you might learning, say, or reading lots of books might actually inhibit you, whereas if it's just happening naturally to you, go with it. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, and because my memory is erased within 24 hours after a session, um, I always wondered, well, why can't I have all that information? Some of it was so beautiful, and I have so much to learn in this life, and they were getting so many valuable lessons. But then I realized, oh, it's not mine, it's theirs. It was for them. So, and it's so much information. It's almost like my mind needs to be reset every day. Like I don't remember what I did last week because I think it's just like to be in the present. I need to be in the present today, now, and then allow almost like a clear channel. So I didn't watch TV too and a lot because I wanted everything to be clear. I haven't read a lot of spiritual books recently because I wanted the information that I was receiving to be super clear and not have it from maybe a different source. So, but now I'm starting to try to be more open-minded because I do feel there's so much beautiful information out there. And what I'm seeing is like now I'm seeing uh, Metatron. Metatron showed himself in sessions from last year, but I just started to really see him more present. And he's the Lord of the Akashic Records. He's one of the protectors. He's a reader of the Akashic Records. I didn't know this. So when I started, it was like, who are you? And I heard Metatron. I was like, okay. So when I started to research after, like he showed himself and I was like, oh my God, this is so it's ancient wisdom that we all have access to. You can access your own Akashic records. You can access others if you're given permission. Not special. Like we're all here to do work, right? Um, so this is a gift we all have. So that's why too, I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to teach people how they can access their own and access others because I think the more we get involved in the spiritual side of things, and trying to better our lives and raise our frequencies out of the 3D dimensional and try to go to maybe 4D or 5D. The whole point is to try to raise our light and bring ourselves into a higher frequency so we can enjoy what it's like in that realm. And it's a very lighter, more, it's filled with love, is all I can say.
And I guess that as you alluded before, people are on different areas of it. You'll have some people who will say, "Oh, this is mumbo jumbo rubbish," and so clearly they're not ready to be enlightened. But maybe later in this life, something happens to them. You know, perhaps a parent dies, and then they see the parent at the end of the bed. You know, I've heard these sort of stories, and suddenly, you know, a very hard manual labourer who perhaps is a bricklayer or something like that, who normally is sort of swearing with the boys, going down drinking, suddenly is going. You know, it's as if a veil is lifted, and it's like, wow, hold on a minute. There is something to this because I've just seen my mother sitting there talking to me very briefly, and then she's gone, and something's happened.
Oh, 100%. It sometimes takes like random stuff, like, and then sometimes it's trauma or sickness that can kind of break people down to a point of, oh, there's a lot more. Or some people use herbs, some people use plant medicine to access some of their stuff. And it's fascinating because when they can connect to the other realms, they realize, oh, it's not just this, three-dimensional, everything has vibration, everything has energy. So when they can finally connect with that, then life, their paradigm shifts. And that's amazing because then it's like, what else is out there? I mean, some people don't want to know because sometimes it's a little bit different, to see stuff, which I could totally understand. But you can also put up filters. What I found is I always say, show me what I can handle. Because there was,
Ah,
God bless Miami, there was just a lot of activity there and energy there that some of it was it was scary for me. It was not pleasant to see. So I would get in fear mode. And when I realized I don't have to see this, I don't have to feel this, I can put a
mm,
filter. Only highest frequency is allowed around me at all times. That's when I had more power and I could say, this can be fun. I can enjoy this. And that's when I started to do more of the Akashic record reading because I wasn't in fear. I was like, this is a blessing. This is a gift. I'm here to help others and I want to be in the high frequency. And so that's when I didn't have to feel so much the low stuff all the time.
yeah.
I mean, it still shows up. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I can say, not today.
Yes, yes, you've got a bit more control on it than most people. So, tell me how people can become a bit more tuned in to this sort of thing. If they're starting out with the intention that they realise, I mean, like somebody like me, who on my journey in the last 7 8 months have started to think a lot more about the spiritual side of things, and obviously we had our reading, or you did the reading, um, and sometimes I get a bit frustrated because you hear all of this stuff, and I've gone round the house going, well, if there's such things as spirit guide, please will you talk to me? I'm opening up my mind. I'm here. I'm what have you, and then you get frustrated because nothing happens, or apparently nothing happens. But more and more I'm hearing, more about the ascension that people are talking about, particularly at the moment. More and more I'm hearing that we are spiritual beings in physical bodies, that this is a physical thing. And because of the journey I've gone with, all the different rabbit holes and all the different areas that have amazingly opened up, and I've been talking to and interviewing a whole session of amazing people like yourself, enlightened people who've got something to add. And I say to myself, I'm so ready for this now. I'm so ready. And so, what do you do? How do you get there?
Well, I've noticed that a lot of people's guides have a great sense of humor. So, as an example, I was doing a class with a few friends last in Jupiter, Florida last December. And I was teaching people how to access their Akashic records as well as others, and then other people were teaching channeling and all this. And so one of the teachers in the group said, well, it's not going to hit you with a neon sign. Like you're not just going to get hit over the head with a neon sign. And then in my head, I said, well, my signs are like that. So literally like 2 days later, as I was checking into a hotel, um, literally I looked over and there was this neon sign that said, here is your neon sign, you're exactly where you're meant to be. And so I was like, oh, thanks. So I took a picture, but like you have to be, I think, in a playful energy of like, okay, show me. So for me, I see a lot of animal signs. Like I think we were speaking before, red cardinals show up a lot when I do my sessions. And literally, like I could do it my sessions in my car sometimes, and a red cardinal will show up. So it's not just the same family that lives in the back of the yard. It's random.
Right.
I'm on the phone.
Red cardinal birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on the phone and I was saying, oh yeah, I miss my dad, who he would show up as a red cardinal. And I'm on a 5-lane highway, and all of a sudden a red cardinal swoops in front of my car, and we're in the 5-lane highway in the middle of there's no woods around. And I'm like, oh, okay. So look for signs if you're just trying to play and be in the energy of it. Um, for me, I have hearts that show up everywhere, and like anywhere I go, there's a heart. So it could be a paper on the ground that's in the shape of the heart. So if you can just kind of be free about it and say, okay, show me some signs. But a lot of times it's great if you just want to just relax. The more you're more relaxed into it. Another way of doing it is going outside and either laying on the ground or leaning up against a tree and say, I open my heart to receive all the information I need to know from you, my guides. I open my heart to receive whatever messages. You have to be open. So much of us is like, where? But when you relax into it and say, okay, I just open my heart to receive all this, then they'll just show up randomly. Of like, you may have a lot of people hear, their favorite song on the radio of like someone that passed, or I really need a good sign right now. And then they'll say, oh, walking on sunshine or whatever. But it's um like for me, it's funny just to walk in a store and I'll hear the music and I'm like, did they totally play this music just for me? Because like it was completely different before and so our guides like to play with us. Some people like to just write down, like if you can just clear your mind in the morning or at night and just say, what do you want to tell me? And if you just start free flowing and writing, some people have just beautiful messages. And I think the more you just relax into it, so like taking a bath or taking a shower and then go doing it when you're relaxed. Some people are clearer with activity. So if they bike ride outside or if they go for a run, in nature, and then all of a sudden I see them as downloads. They'll have all these epiphanies because their body needs momentum. Some people are beautiful in the yoga pose and they get all these downloads in yoga pose, but like for me, I'm the type, I need to work out, I need to run, I need to be outside, and then I get the information. So try to be honor where you're at with who you are in your body. Like honor, where's my sacred place? Well, it's kind of by the woods. Well, where's mine? Oh, it's by the trees, by a river. Well, where's mine? By the ocean. Go to those magical places. It's usually
Mm.
nature. I mean, we can create magical places wherever we go. If you're only allowed in a room, to do it in your room. Um, but just I think try to focus and try to enjoy it as much as you can. Nature sounds for me work. Other people use like binaural beats or something. Some people just use that white noise. But for me, I just feel like if something like spa music can get you there, go there. Go where you can really just relax. So much of us our minds are on all the time. It's hard, right?
Yes, yes, that's very true. And I'm taking from what you're saying there that don't try too hard.
Exactly. Like have fun with it.
Yeah,
Like really
yeah.
kind of have fun. And they like what I've noticed is they like to just to surprise you out of the blue. Like, all right, set an intention. I want three magical things to happen to me today, randomly. Thank you. And so it is, or amen, however you want to do it. Go about your day and then mark down three magical things that happen to you that day. I think too, the being in gratitude is also a high frequency. So the more you're in gratitude, even if you're sick and you don't have much to be grateful for, hey, I'm still breathing, I'm alive, someone loves me, or I have food today, or I'm warm. If that's your gratitude, that's a blessing.
Mm.
If it's, oh my God, I have someone that just told me they love me, that's a blessing. Like, oh my God, I have an animal that loves me, that's a blessing. I have sunshine, I have food, I have shelter. Those are blessings. So the more you're into the gratitude mode, that's the key too, from what I've seen.
Well, that's very interesting and encouraging. So that, I suppose again, I'm just sort of assimilating what you're saying. There's no one way. There's no fixed way. Everybody's different, and we'll all find routes into the spiritual side of ourselves. But mostly, you start with an intention to open yourself up and be receptive.
Yeah, and I mean for those that are curious about like crystals or like other things, I'll just show you as an example. Because like I just have like this is a selenite. So this is something it's just uh, people have seen,
Wow, look at that.
but it's beautiful because what I do is when I am having a rough day or I need to clear quickly, I just kind of literally go over my aura with it. And I'll just start like doing that. And for me, I just know immediately it's cleansing. It's just clearing my aura because I can pick up a lot of stuff. And so that way, um, it's literally just you have to start doing, I call it spiritual homework. And like I'll get called out on my work. I don't always do my spiritual homework, but I'll get kicked in the butt if I don't, meaning I'll get migraines. I will get
Oh,
My
really?
my back will go out because I'm not doing my spiritual homework because I had to learn how to get out of pain for most of my life because I was getting bombarded by too much stress, but it wasn't all mine. I was picking up others. And it was just from lifetimes of trying to help people heal and clear, but I wasn't doing the last step, which was I take on someone's energy. I have to let it go and let it
Yes.
get off of me. So, I took a million healing and energy classes, but I wasn't doing the most important, which was on making sure my energy was strong and say and secure. So like I every morning I put a sacred geometry energy around my whole aura, and I put it above my crown chakra and all the way down below my feet into the earth. So I protect my energy with sacred geometry because that's what was shown to me. But for someone that's just starting out, maybe just, asking, or if you feel comfortable with crystals, um, asking the crystal to take any of the energy that's not serving you and put it into to the crystal, and then put the crystal outside to regenerate. Some people use essential oil. Like I always had to protect my neck and put the essential oil in the front and the back. So to clear after some sessions, I'll have to do a spray of essential oils just to clear the energy. But these are all things you can do. You can go get ocean water and spray ocean water. I mean, nature pine oil, like Siberian pine oil was one for me that was like I needed it all the time. Just and it was during I found out it can help clear energy that was low frequency. I didn't know this, but people were using it as tea. And I was like, oh, well, that's exciting. But people that just drink herbal teas and stuff, they know the frequency, they can tell it's healing. So you can just
Mm.
ask, even if you don't have that, ask that water, can you give me the highest frequency? And you just kind of ask the energy of the water, or you pray over it and say, can you please, I activate you into the highest frequency. I activate the highest healing frequencies. And then you drink it. And then you just allow that energy in. I know it sounds maybe hocus pocus, but I'm telling you, on an energy level, it really does make a difference. Because for those of us that do energy work, you can do all these pain draining and do all these physical stuff of holding it over the chakras and drain out the pain. There's so many beautiful techniques, but if you haven't studied that, then
Mm.
you can be lost. So if you can keep it simple in the beginning.
Yes, well, I think that would work, isn't it? Keep it simple, like so many things in life.
Yeah.
And before we go, because I know time is ticking on, I'd love to know a little bit more about the aura, because again, that's another mystery, I suppose, to me about the aura. You said that you see auras, you see colours and things like that. And so about 20 years ago, somebody did a reading, and they did it based on the aura, and they printed out this little booklet. Now I was a bit skeptical because it was all using a computer and stuff rather than actually somebody sitting there, and you never quite know whether it's just a fixed program that's doing the work or whether it's actually a human sort of influencing, or the spirit influencing the computer to print stuff out. So I was a bit vague about how big the aura is, how you see it, how it changes, how it influences you, or how it influences others. So could you just tell us a little bit about the aura, please?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, what I've seen is there are many different, we all have different colors around us at all times. Some people, what I've seen is some of us have dominant ones. So, like, um, I remember when I was a kid, I would see my mom with yellow as a dominant, but it would be sparkly white around her. Um, and my uncle would be white with sparkly yellow stars. And so it was always different according to the person. Like that would be their dominant. But when my mom would have, let's just say she'd be angry, her colors would be completely different, and it would be not so sparkly, let's just say.
Mm.
So emotions can bring that out. But when I was learning different energy work on people, because I was trying to heal myself and get out of pain, I took all these classes. One was Healing Touch, which was great because they help share a lot of different techniques. And so I was doing energy work, trying to clear someone's energy. And the aura, for what I started to see, was one side of the person on their left side, it was pastel colors like rainbows, and it would be waving and moving. And then on the right, it would be dominant red, dark red, blue, green. And I was like, why are these? But I was seeing the different layers. So we have different layers of the aura, and each layer has different energy systems. Like one layer holds emotions, one layer holds the energies of like the organs and the more skeletal energy. So, and there's all these amazing energies. So if you tap into each layer, which is a whole other, it's really kind of hard to explain, but for me, but we have different, like they say we have seven chakras, main ones. We have a million chakras, but the main ones are certain ones, and those hold their certain colors, and that's goes into your energy system. So um it has certain strengths. So if you like, for me, if I saw someone's heart chakra was like a really pale green, we can add more color and energy to it. So it's a more vibrant, bright. I like to see fluorescent green because that's a strong, high frequency for me. But a lot of times too, I'd see like bright pink. And I'm like, what was this bright pink? And that's the high heart. So, but if you have someone that's just pure heart centered, you may just see all this beautiful green. But if they're also a master energy of trying to enlighten themselves, you may see a lot of purple. But that doesn't mean they don't have all the other colors. It's just the dominant one. Or maybe it's just the one I see at that time to see as a reference point where they're at, where on their journey, or what they need to. If I would see gray around some people's aura. And so as I would clear off that gray off of them, I'd try to fill it in with the energy that I felt they needed. So I saw gray around one woman's breasts before, and I asked my mentor, does she have breast cancer? She goes, we don't know that, she'll have to get a mammogram, but just clear it and then fill it in. So I filled it in with just the highest frequency of love and healing. And so for me, that color was green. And for me, also, angels show up. So Archangel Raphael comes in to fill in the energy of healing. And that's just how I work, because it showed up one day. Archangel Michael showed up one day, and I didn't even know who he was, but I had to research. And so these are things like I don't know any of this. I'm learning, but when these energies show up, it's presence that I have to say I have extreme respect for, and I have to pay homage to. But I also like to research and say, why is this happening? So when I find out, I'm like, well, it's an honor to work with you, and thank you for showing up, because they get to clear things I'm not able to. I'm just a human, right? Spirit in the human form. But these are energies that, I mean, I do try to do as much as I can, but when there are energies I can't work with, I always ask for help. I ask for archangels, I ask for angels, please come and help. And they'll show up and they'll help. So people that can tap into that or want to tap into that, ask. We're here to ask for help. Our angels, our guides, our loved ones, they love to help us, but we have to ask. It's kind of like they're on the sideline of a little baseball game. If they're sitting on the bench and you don't throw them in the game, they're not going to be able to help out,
Right,
right?
right.
You throw them in and say, "Hey, you're up next." Hit a home run.
No, that's really interesting. Sometimes I've had emails where I've mentioned talking about spirituality, and I've had emails from, what would you say, ardent Christians,
Okay.
perhaps, who are very into the Bible,
Yes.
and would say to me, "Don't dabble in this, Richard. You're dabbling in the, you're exploring the wrong thing. It's purely the work of Jesus." And there may well be people watching. Now, I have absolutely. I don't want to upset anybody or offend anybody by talking about all these different subjects, but it's very interesting that I get not a huge number, but when I do, they're very strong on saying, "Richard, this is a dangerous path. If I suggest, I might like to hear the spirit talking into my head, they say, oh no, that you're inviting the devil," and things like that. What do you say to those people who clearly are wanting to be protective, and
Yes.
they believe their religion or their Bible or whatever, And yet at the same time, in a way, it seems to me, they're saying don't explore other things.
Well, yeah, and I grew up uh Catholic and Christian, and I remember sitting in church and I was a little sad because I always wanted to be a priest. And so at 7 or 8, I found out females weren't allowed to be priests. And in my church that I grew up in, I'm sure everyone's different. They didn't talk enough about Mary. And I was like, but Mary's important too. And so I just had this weird, and I didn't, I was, I don't, I never studied fully the Bible, although I want to one day. But I just was so confused. And I was like, so I said, this isn't for me because this doesn't seem balanced. And so I left. And then but I respect all of that because I also I clear energy off of people, and it's not always it's not high frequency, and they're entities. And I'm going to say that straight because it scared me to death, and I didn't know what I was doing, what these things were, but I stood up for the challenge, and I said, okay, if this is here, we can clear it. But I also researched priests that clear off and do exorcisms because I like to know as much as I can. And if I'm not using the abilities in the best way I can, show me another way. And I remember this priest that I was so excited because he cleared off so many, he had so many exorcisms and he called in Jesus. And I was like, oh, yay, he does all these things that I like to do. And I was so happy. And then all of a sudden he said, you have to break your crystals and you're not allowed to use crystals and you're not allowed to do anything metaphysical. And I was sad because I was like, well, I protect myself in only God's love and light. That's how my prayer starts. I ask God to protect me and this person in only love and light frequency. So I work in that energy and I'm thinking, well, I pray it's made me a better person. I pray I help people with what I do. I pray I only work in love and light. So if other people are going to be afraid of that or think it's bad, I understand fear is a huge thing. I am honored and grateful to work with archangels. They've shown up. I, I didn't know Archangel Michael was such an amazing energy and with God and the Bible and Jesus. And I'm learning. So, but that this is all spiritual energy, and unfortunately we're in a spiritual war, so I have to protect myself and I have to honor what's being shown to me. But I always ask, who are you, how can I help? And if I didn't even know who Metatron was. I had to Google this. I had to call girlfriends that could see like me, and they were like, "Oh my God." And so when I find these energies, I'm like, I'm only working in love and light energy. So I send those people love because I was there too. I was like, does this mean I have to break all my crystals? But I'm like, God made these crystals. God made these crystals, God made the plants and the trees and all this beautiful stuff around us and herbs and stuff to heal us. God made us with a beautiful immune system so that we can heal without anyone else's assistance. And it's
Yes.
given to us by God. And how dare anyone say you need this or that because this is what's mandated when I have a God-given immunity? No, thank you. My body is a gift from God. So that's how I work. And I understand because I've been there with other people where they were like, oh, this is the devil's work. No, I've met energies that work with the devil and I don't want anything to do with them. But guess what? Because I've seen them, I have to protect myself. So who do I call on? I call on Archangel Michael. I call on Archangel Gabriel or Raphael. I'll call on anyone that can help that is of love. And let me tell you, when you're working with those energies, you need the highest frequency. Yes, I will call on Jesus. I will call on Mary. I'll call on them all because they're of love and they're of the highest frequencies. And those energies that are dark, they don't want to play around and they get really upset if you try to clear them. So
Yeah.
there's no game here. I'm not here to say anything but I work in love and light, and I understand their fear because I also was like, who would am I supposed to give up and not do my work? No, actually, I was actually given a message. You're here to help people and clear them of their pain and suffering. So if that's my job right now, I'm here. I'm a warrior of love and light, and that's what I'm here to do. So I send them love because I know I've been there. I totally understand.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well done, you. I kind of run out of questions, actually. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you for the reading that we did before. That meant a lot to me. And so if people are interested, and I mean, I assume you take on clients from time to time. If people want to contact you, are you open for that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I usually work word of mouth, because that's how I like to work because I want people that want to work in this energy.
Hmm.
Maybe one day I'll put myself out there, but I just also don't want those. It's hard to work with skepticals because it's like you're just constantly fighting, like trying to prove, and it's like I'm just going to tell you what's being shown and that's it. Take what you want, leave the rest. But they can find me on my website, leahraylight.com, LeahRaylight.com. And then for there, I just do blocks of time. So some people say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how much time. I always just say, a lot of people just start with an hour, hour and a half. We'll work with whatever you want. You can direct it however you want, but some people have a list of questions, so we try to cover those. But I also do past life regressions. The quantum healing hypnosis by Dolores Cannon, I do that in person. It's a 4 to 5 hour session. And the past life regressions, I also do over the video because a lot of people can't travel. It's expensive
Hmm.
to travel. I'm in Massachusetts right now, so it's a lot to travel. I have clients in Australia and New Zealand that
Yeah, yeah.
them to travel halfway across the world. So I can do the other stuff through Zoom. The Akashic records I like to do over the phone. The only reason is because I like to sit out in nature and I can see the energy and messages clearer when I'm just doing it over the phone. But with the past life regressions, I can do it through Zoom because it's good to see each other.
Wonderful. I'll put a link in the description, so that people can contact you. And I hope you don't get deluged with too many, but enough to be worthwhile, of course. And if you're skeptical, then leave well alone, I suppose. As you say, you don't want to be fighting too much. But I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for enlightening me and my audience. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I hopefully will talk to you again in the future and have another reading to see if I'm further up in the ascension, which would be interesting. And actually, I might have to get Julia to have a chat with you as well.
Oh, yeah, let's do that because that would be fun. Because it's I found a lot of empaths have had, just a difficult go. And it's nice
Yeah.
to kind of connect with other empaths so that we can kind of just, it's beautiful just to share. But it does their people's guides also. What I noticed too is lately a lot of people have been getting activated by their guides, so that they can clear stuff so they can people are, I feel, accelerating faster or manifesting more recently.
Oh, right. Oh, that's interesting because I'm sort of sensing that from the comments I get and from people telling me that there's a lot of people, as you say, sort of being activated and getting in touch. And whether it's just because I'm talking about it a bit more on the channel or I don't know, but it does seem to be that people are beginning to sort of get in touch with their spiritual side on a greater number now than ever before, which is fantastic.
Oh, it's a blessing. And I think it's just reminding us who we are, where we're from.
Yeah.
It's waking up slowly, just so that we can gently open up to the ideas of, oh wow, there's a lot more out there. And it's beautiful because I think it's a ripple effect. And definitely the more time you spend in nature, you gather more of that sacred geometry. People say sacred spaces. Those are great, but not all of us can travel to all these
Mm.
places, like Egypt and Mount Shasta and all that. But you can go outside and you can get these sacred geometries outside. So enjoy.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I will be back on the channel. I hope the audience enjoyed that. I'll be back with more interviews and, of course, my monologues. But in the meantime, do check out Leah Ray. and I'll leave the link in the description. And thank you, Leah. I really appreciate that. It was great fun.
Oh my gosh, thank you, and infinite blessings to you and the audience, and send you all love. Thank you, thank you.
Wonderful. I'll be back in the future with more shows, but in the meantime, from Leah and myself, goodbye.